Good morning, dog fans. This is the Game Day show with DawgsHQ. Trying a little something new here. We're trying to get in front of you as much as possible. I'm here with my man, Rusty Mansell. And Rusty, we got a lot to cover as far as today's game. We're going to try to get to it all in about 20 to 25 minutes here so that Georgia fans can kind of be in the know here on Game Day. Georgia takes on South Carolina, 3:30 CBS. Make sure you set your DVR if you want to watch this thing. Rusty, just real quick before we get into the nuts and bolts of it, SEC opener, what are you looking for as far as game day atmosphere? What's the vibe for you coming into this one?
I think Georgia fans have kind of craved, as lack of a better term, this one. I mean, a big-time SEC matchup, a national, televised game, CBS 3:30, so the entire country, you get that primetime time slot for the country. And, I think this home field, Georgia's played two games and been good crowds. Even that first game against UT Martin, I think the excitement of having a night game and get a chance to see the lights kept people around. It's just different, man. I guess the term, the SEC's motto, it just means more. Well, this one will just mean more. This is the SEC. This is a team. This is South Carolina. It's a team that Georgia recruits against. And we all know 2019, Georgia heavy favorite. And they come in there on a noon kickoff and got beat. And so I'm sure Kirby Smart has brought that up several times this week. And he's also I bet he's brought up the Tennessee Clemson, that South Carolina was underdogs in those two games in the season last year. He knows Spencer Rattler, what he's capable of. So I think he challenged the Georgia fans to make it as difficult as possible on South Carolina to communicate and to run an efficient offense. I expect today is going to be a big-time crowd.
And Rusty, the issues South Carolina's had on the offensive line, this game surprises you all the time. Yeah. But when you put 2 and 2 together on this one, it does not really stack up that well for South Carolina. And one of the reasons I think that 27.5 points, 4 scores at the very least favorite, it depends on where you look. I believe that's one of the biggest reasons why that is the case. All right, let's get into injuries here real quick. Ladd McConkey, Rusty, I liken this to being to being kind of a 10, 11, 12-year-old kid and asking my mom and dad for something. Yeah. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. That dreaded "we'll see" answer. Yeah. I mean, that's all we can do on Ladd right now.
I'm to the point, Jake, where I need to see him full pads pregame warm up until I say he's going to play. And listen, it's been one of those things for you and Palmer in particular. It's been tough to cover because I think at times each of the last 2 weeks, I would bet that Georgia staff early in the week thought he was going to be able to go on Saturdays, and it just has not been the case. So if I see him out there today in pregame warmups, that'll be different. But until I see him with pads on and quote unquote silver britches, I'm just going to say Ladd McConkey's not available right now. And it's just one of those, it's the dreaded day-to-day words you hear, but that's truly the case right here. It's day-to-day with him. And right now I know it's a lot of frustration from Georgia fans, Georgia staff, and most importantly, Ladd McConkey, because I know that young man wants to be on the field.
It's funny, Kirby's so quick to give that day-to-day tag that it's taken on a completely new meaning. And when he said it, we were like, hey, guys, literally, this is true here. This is true. But nobody believes it because he's said day-to-day so many times now. But that's 100% right, Rusty. There have been times over the last couple of weeks where Tuesday, Wednesday, you're thinking, yeah, I think Ladd's probably going to go this week. And then, lo and behold, he does not go. And Georgia's going to try to be patient with it as long as they possibly can. And we know Ladd. We know he's trying to get back. Dejon Edwards should be back this week. Kirby has already said that. Rusty, I think that's massive for this team because he is a first and second down monster.
Yeah, it's a big piece. And I said it earlier in the week, and I don't want to be too critical because I still believe in this running game. I still believe in this running back room. But, the one thing you kind of want to see is make some guys miss. You're not going to be able to put a hat on every single person. And, you look at Dejon Edwards, he has that type of ability to make you miss in small areas. And I think he's going to be a breath of fresh air. I kind of looked at this game and thought about it and looked around some things. I think Georgia's going to have a good running game today. I think these backs have probably been challenged all week. I bet Kirby Smart's been in them. I bet Dale McGee's challenge his room to, let's quiet some folks. Let's kind of put the stamp on this thing that, we still are the standard. We still are RBU, and I'll see if we can make some, some headlines today, but I think Dajon Edwards getting him back is going to be a big deal.
All right, there have been a few rumors about Brock Bowers. Real quick, right here. I hear he's fine. What are you hearing?
I think he's banged up a little bit, but I don't think it's anything that's going to keep him out today. I mean, you look at Brock Bowers, and man, I use this term every now and then. You're talking about a 1 percentile human. I mean, he's a 1 percentile, guy. He's athletic and can do certain things that just you don't see normally out of a tight end position type player. And you look at the number of snaps. Jake, what do you have? 28 snaps last week.
Something like that. 28, 30, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Somewhere around there. Caught one ball. So I think Brock Bowers is a guy that if he can go, he's going. He's going to find a way to go. So I expect him out there. And look, it's football. You're going to have some guys with bangs and bruises. And I go back to last year. I don't think many people realize what Marvin Jones Jr. was doing. I mean, he was on a pitch count. I mean, he could only play about 10 plays a game because he had a torn labrum, but he finished the entire year and did what he could do to play. So Brock Bowers, I think, is going to be a big piece of the puzzle today and moving forward. A little bit banged up, but that's just football, and he'll continue to play through it.
All right, Kristen Miller, Kirby Smart said he's fine earlier this week, cervical strain, which is kind of a neck strain a little bit, and he should be good to go. Javon Bullard, I'm told, Rusty, that Javon had a little bit of a surge here toward the end of the week and got better, but I don't think he's going to play. I think that they'll try to get through it without him, even if he is available to play.
Yeah, that's a big one, man. He's such a kind of a, for lack of a better term, he's a dynamic player on defense. He just finds ways to make plays, always around the ball. So fast and attacking downhill, can cover. But I agree with you. I don't expect to see Javon Bullard today, and that's a big piece. Who steps in there, because I'm gonna tell you right now, it's just like the NFL. Saturday's the same way. Whoever steps in there for Javon Bullard is going to get tested, and he's going to get tested a good bit. Spencer Rattler's going to know from the first series that 22 is not out there, and he's going to find that guy that is, and at some point he's going to challenge him a couple times.
All right, let's get into the matchups here real quick, and I'm going to go ahead and jump into. We've each got one. The matchup I'm focused on, Rusty, is Georgia's passing game against South Carolina's secondary, because you look at last year, something we've highlighted over at DawgsHQ. Brock Bowers and Dominic Lovett both. They didn't play for the same team last year, but they sent South Carolina to the twilight zone. I mean, it was ugly. Both of those guys lit that team up. And you look at that, where do those guys line up? Well, they're lining up on the inside. They're talking about a slot receiver and a tight end. I'm interested in the passing game as a whole, because what are they going to do to kind of, to make sure that they're able to handle, Dominic Lovett and Brock Bowers? Because if they do that and they rob from other areas of the defense to make that happen, you're looking at Dylan Bell and Arian Smith and Marcus Rosemy, Jack Saint, CJ Smith. I think this could ultimately be one of two things. I think the inside receivers or the outside receivers, are going to have a lot of room to move depending on how South Carolina reacts to maybe Georgia's two biggest weapons in the passing, at least big play weapons, and throw Mekhi Muse in there as well, because he's a guy that can give South Carolina a lot of problems there in the middle of the field.
Yeah, yesterday when we put up our picks and players of the game, I picked Dominic Lovett. I just think it's time. He's been here for a while. He's had a couple times you start seeing him get more targets last week. I think this is a guy that Georgia's about to lean on heavily. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to take a step forward. I think he has a big game today. And, for me, it's that Georgia defensive line versus the South Carolina offensive line. You already should have an advantage of a very loud crowd. Sometimes you get off the ball a little bit late because you can't hear. And if you're a defensive lineman, if you're Smile Munden, if you're Chaz Chambliss, if you're Marvin Jones Jr., any of these guys, if you're Darius Smith, if you come in on these, quote unquote rabbit packages where they're bringing the guys on third down, this is where I think Georgia can really put a big dent in this game, because last year they got after Rattler pretty good, pressured him a couple times. I think he threw 2 interceptions in that game. So can they force the throws? Can they get him off platform? Can they make him for lack of a term there, can they rattle him a little bit and make him uneasy? Because I'll tell you this, when Spencer Rattler can set his feet and get going, I mean, this guy can really push the ball down the field. But you look at Michael Williams right there, that's a guy that's a problem. And I'm telling you, South Carolina, what I saw against North Carolina, and it's about to ramp up a lot more facing this front four for Georgia. So I would expect South Carolina to try to get the ball out of Rattler's hands as quick as possible. A lot of things on the perimeter, those type of things. So we'll see how they try to attack Georgia. But I think the Georgia defensive line, Warren Brinson, I think he might wind up getting a sack. You know, you look at some of Zion Logue, some of those guys that don't normally get those types of stats. Somebody in that defensive line is going to be a really happy person later tonight.
I'll tell you what, the next thing we wanted to talk about what we're looking for, but I'm going to hang right here in the matchups kind of with what I'm looking for. And it's another, matchup of sorts. It's very similar on the other side of the ball, what I said for Georgia's offense. It is Georgia's defense and that cornerback, whoever it is opposite, because I got a lot of confidence in Kamari Lassiter. Yeah. Even though I will say he hit one of the Ball State on that Malachi Starks interception last week, Ball State receiver kind of put him in a blender a little bit and beat him pretty bad. But Malachi Starks was able to erase it. That's why he's elite. But I have a lot of confidence in Kamari Lassiter. But Xavier Legette, Rusty, has been fantastic for South Carolina through 2 games. He's going to get matched up because Georgia's not going to follow him around with Kamari Lassiter. Okay, they just don't do that. It's not the way they do it. He's going to get matched up against Julian Humphrey. He's going to get matched up against a Nyland Green maybe or Dalen Everett, who has started the first 2 games. Are they going to be able to handle that? Are they going to be able to handle that big 6'3", 6'4", 220-pound guy in a jump ball situation, a 50-50 ball situation? I'm interested to see that because I think that is going to be South Carolina's best chance to bite off chunks of yardage and early in this game, because that's where it's going to be big. Early today, if they're able to hit some of those shots, I think they can hang around a while.
One name, too, now you want to talk about today is Nicholas Harbor. This guy's the true freshman. He's 6'5". He ran a 10-300. Those videos went viral. South Carolina with a massive win recruiting. And you get a Nicholas Harbor to try to make explosive plays in games like this. How does Georgia match up with that guy? Because he's basically Arian Smith at 6'5", 225 pounds. So you can bet at some point on this afternoon, you're going to see number 12 right there. That's a wide receiver. You're going to see him one-on-one with either Malachi Starks or somebody else playing deep in that safety. You're going to see him one-on-one with those guys, and that's what it's all about this afternoon. You want to talk about SEC grown man football. Nicholas Harbor, I believe, was a 5-star versus Malachi Starks, something like that. Was a 5-star of the class before. So there's going to be some game within the game, but I promise you right now, he caught his first pass last week. They're going to use him in some fashion this afternoon. They've got to because on paper, he gives you some problems and worry a little bit with his size and catch radius and top end speed.
Rusty, I've had this thought all week long that you talk about the catch radius and you talk about the thing downfield. We're talking, and I know you made mention of it. We're talking about elite speed. Even if he was 5'11", he would have elite speed. We're talking elite speed in that kind of frame. I wouldn't put it past Shane Beamer to try to do a little, kind of Brock Bowers copycat there, jet sweep and reverse, something like that to get him in the wide open field and let him move. Rusty, one prediction for today. Let me have it.
I'm going to say that Mekhi Muse makes another big explosive play. Does he score? Maybe not. But does he have a punt return for 60 yards or more? Or does he catch a tunnel screen and run one for, let's say, over 40 yards? So I'll say either a kick return over 60 or he catches one and runs one for total over 40 yards. I just think that, look, man, this kid, he just got something to him, man. I mean, you can look at his size and you can say all these things and pick people apart, but at the end of the day, he's putting multiple plays on tape. And I picked Dominic Lovett yesterday as my player of the game, and I stand by that. But I'm telling you right now, Mekhi Muse is not a flash in the pan. This guy's here to stay, and they're going to find ways to get him the ball.
Absolutely. Rusty, my prediction is, and this is a total milquetoast, not going to fire anybody up. I think South Carolina's going to try something on special teams, and I think Georgia's going to jump in the way. I think onside kick, Georgia's going to get it. Fake punt, Georgia's going to get it. Fake field goal, Georgia's going to snuff it out. I think Kirby Smart, I bet, has all week long. Whoever handles Georgia's field goal block or punt return or kickoff return team, those guys have been absolutely hammered and had that coach down their throat all week long.
This is probably the 1 week of the year that Kirby Smart sits in the special teams meeting from the start to the end, because he knows. And listen, Shane Beamer takes a lot of pride in that Beamer ball, and I guarantee you he's had something in his pocket, and he will not leave. They may not win this game, but he'll pull everything out of the bag this weekend. They will try something on special teams. So Georgia has sit there all week and tried to say, okay, are can they do this? And you probably look at Georgia and say, hey, can we do this on them? So special teams is always a focus, but I guarantee you, Jake, 100% you're right. I guarantee you Kirby Smart has absolutely been all over every coach that's responsible for whatever part of special teams this week.
If you're out there and you're close with Kirby and you called him this week and he sent you straight to voicemail, that's what was going on. He was in a special teams meeting getting ready to rip into somebody. Hey, Georgia, South Carolina, 3:30 today, CBS. Make sure you're there. Make sure you're watching. Hopefully we've got you ready for it going in, and we will catch you later over at DawgsHQ. That's where all the great coverage will be. Palmer, myself, Rusty, Wes Blankenship will be right here on this channel after the game, and we'll be discussing what we saw. We'll have video of Shane Beamer. We'll have video of Kirby. Come on back to the YouTube channel. Come on over to DawgsHQ.com. 1 year. I'm sorry, not 1 year. Let me not false advertise this. 1 month for $1. That's all it costs you. So skip a cup of coffee and go ahead and sign up for 6 months, because that's what you can get. All right, y'all take care. And again, we'll be back on this channel later on today.